Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Elevation Nation. On this channel, my goal is to get people to dive deeply into interesting conversations so that they can really embrace a higher vibration, so we can elevate the entire tribe of human beings. And when we spell out elevate my way, the word love is a key part of that word, elevation. And I really believe that bringing together people who have conversations where we're willing to go deep and have not the normal superficial stuff is really where the treasures are, the treasures of our heart, where we find our truths. And I know that that's where I have found the most golden teachings for myself is in listening to podcasts and conversations and shows where people have gone off the beaten path and had really interesting conversations that have expanded my mind and really helped me to grow. So today I am so honored to have Marie Russel with us. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's just a delight to speak with like-minded humans.
It is. So Marie has a background, and the big part of her life is that she is the owner of It's Yoga International and Yoga Off the Mat. And so when I first saw Marie talking on a show that I pay a lot of attention to, I listen to it often, I was like, oh, wow, the things she's saying are the things that are happening in my life, but they're happening in her life. Like, holy cow, there's someone else out there. And so I'm going to let you talk on that for a while, Marie, and just kind of explain how you came, how you came into like Charlie Freak's world. Charlie Freak has a phenomenal show. He is one of the people that he blows my mind every time I listen to him. I feel like my mind just keeps stretching and stretching. And there's times I have to pause because I'm like, wait, I need to integrate that before I keep listening because that's such a huge chunk of wowness for me that I have to pause before I get it, get more bits of it. So that's where I first saw Marie. And again, you were speaking about the yoga community at the time and how that part of your life, like you had this yoga business. And I think you had said that it felt like it was just crumbling in your hands. And I have felt that way over the last 9 to 10 months in terms of personal connection. I mean, I've been going through that for quite a while in my life through huge transitions I've been in, where I've had to deal with the fact that as we grow, we lose some things that no longer resonate with us, that just aren't part of that mix. And it's hard. It's really hard sometimes to let go of those things that we're attached to. Um, so I'm going to let you like just kind of jump in here and
Okay.
maybe just go
Yeah.
at it. Tell us who you are,
Yeah.
because even though I described you as a yoga instructor and an owner, I know that what you truly are is this like truth seeker and this lover. Like I know, and that's what I feel so close to you with
Oh,
is the fact that we both share this like passion for just knowing ourselves and deeply diving into the truth of love and God and who we really are and what we're
mm,
doing here. So go ahead, take it away.
beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that fantastic intro. It's fun to hear myself being described by a new friend. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, okay. Because I think sometimes on the yoga path, it's a practice. So it's
Mhm.
kind of something that's unfolding. It's very alive. It's when you said,
Very.
I was a truth seeker, I'm like, yeah, I that really resonates with me, even though yoga was my vehicle for that. It's always been about going inward. It's always been about who am I and where am I going and how do I fit into this puzzle that I found myself in. And so, from a business perspective, yes, I, have this great history and I had, the privilege of really being with what I would say a true master yogi in a very non-dogmatic way. It was not about perfection. It was about fun. And
Mhm.
that was a really different uh, way of living for me. So yes, it was about the yoga and yes, it was practicing and all of that, but there was a lifestyle that I felt I was tapping into. And yes, that started when I was 24 and now I'm 40. And it's definitely been a journey. And a lot of people have come and gone on that journey. I think that yoga is a practice of detachment. It's learning how to let go of what's no longer serving your highest potential. And that's difficult on many levels. On one hand, it's difficult because we don't necessarily believe we deserve all that. It's like
Mhm.
there's a worthiness aspect. There's
Oh.
we need to move through our shame and our blame and our projection and our past woundings from this lifetime and many others. And so there's that aspect of it. And then there's the other part of just like wanting to be liked and wanting to be accepted, uh, and that's not always appropriate for your highest potential. Sometimes
It's,
for your highest potential, it's about getting blasted.
but at the same time, like, I just want to hop in on and say something on that, because I wrestled with that dynamic for a long time. Like, I had shame over the fact that I was attached to people liking me. And I had to let go of the shame part, because what I came to realize is that the way that we are, I mean, there's so much that you and I can talk about how we're societally programmed and stuff. But, as a little human coming onto the earth, your only form of security and safety is acceptance by your tribe. Let it, your mom needs to like you enough to feed you, and you
Right.
need to have a home. And so I had to go through this whole, like, really deep, like, really human, earthy element of letting go of the shame behind that, behind wanting to be liked. But once I did, it was like, it was so cool. It was like a breaking apart of an egg, where it was like, that's not even there anymore. Like,
Wow.
I'm happy with how weird I am.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
weird is the new normal. I think if you're
Yeah.
not talking like this, then you're not really living as fully as possible. And that's what this is about. A lot of people shy away from these types of conversations because they're afraid, and because, like you said, the egg is, it's like we have all these shields happening, and yes, they come from our core beliefs, and from being in the womb the first time and feeling the fear of what it is to be in this reality and it being very unnatural, and then starting our defense mechanisms even then. It's
Yeah.
incredible that we've made it this far, and that our bodies are still functioning and all of that. And thank goodness for tools like yoga and coaching and energetic healing and
Mhm.
meditation and diet and all of the things that we can do to support ourselves in coming back into that potential of manifesting and living in our divine reality. But to do that, you've got to look at your wounds, which brings up shame for a lot of people. For me too. I mean, I don't think anyone gets free, gets out of jail free,
No one gets a pass. Yeah, you don't get a pass. No one gets a pass. It's part of the process for sure,
Right.
and I think that was one of the things that you were talking about on Charlie Freak's show. And I know that I wrote it somewhere in between, like, my phone, my journal, everything that I use to, like, document my life. I couldn't find it this morning. But you had said something where you were like, going to the reality of something and actually having the courage to look at it and see it. Like, there is no other way but through. There is so much fear associated with that. And I think that what I have found myself kind of diverting on a different path is that I want to see it all. Like, and it's terrifying. And you and I think, have shared some of the same information that we look at, and it's like, oh my God, I can't even digest this. Like, this is so hard to acknowledge that this is part of the human story right now. Like, it's unbelievable to me. But I had to go through those really rough things, those really rough truths, and face them. Pardon me, just to almost to say no to them, like, to say, "Oh my God, this is a reality," and I'm gonna say, "Yeah, you exist, but no, you are not allowed to anymore. I'm going this way, and this is what I'm gonna bring in." Like, it is my job to pull in more love and more light, and really, and I don't mean that in this, like, "Ooh, love and light" kind of way, but, like, truly, like, loving in a really deep way, loving through honesty and seeing the truth. And so I wondered if you could not necessarily reverse back to that conversation, but kind of like talk on that same topic again, where how did you come lately, because I think it's been in the last year or so that you've also kind of had some major hello moments with some of the
Mhm.
truths that are out there. And that's how you and I connected, is on platforms that are kind of not the norm for, like, at least the yoga community, at least where I'm in the
Mhm.
Northeast, definitely not the political views of many people in where I'm at, and the people that I was around. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, if you're in the mood to get
Sure.
into that or not, but just
Sure.
kind of like that really uncomfortable place that you had to go. What was that like for you? How did it happen? How did it evolve? And like, what did you do to get through all of that? And where do you think it landed you?
Wow, great questions. It's all about healing. So when you look at hard truths, I couldn't not look. I mean, it was
Mhm.
early March. I was in a teacher training here in Mexico, and a friend from San Francisco called me and was like, "You need to shut down the training, and there's this COVID thing." And because we didn't really know what was going on, and we live kind of in a jungly area, and so it wasn't really that serious. Like, we don't have mainstream media. Was the beginning of this thing, and I felt her vibration. I felt like really scared, and it was a very deep fear, And I think it's the ones that we're healing now, those survival fears. The first three chakras, we're really learning how to get out of survival and into heart-centeredness. And so I told the trainers, like, I want to take a day off so we can process this and make sure that we're, doing the right thing and all of that. And we did that. We finished the training the way that we wanted to. I mean, we still communed. We were still close to each other. We did the best we could. Nobody got sick. It was perfect. But it made an imprint on me. I was like, and she sent me a bunch of articles and things that just felt horrendous to me to read. And I thought, this cannot be the truth. Like, for me, the truth, yes, it can be difficult, but there's always light in there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what I was receiving didn't have any of that. And so I started to, and my husband has been on this journey for his whole life. Like, he's always known about some of the things that you and I are just coming to, about the bloodline families, about the Illuminati
Mm-hmm.
and the cabal and these constructs. I mean, I guess I sensed it. I think we all
Mm-hmm.
sense something isn't correct. But I was speaking out often about films and music and education for children and diet and it just so many things over the years through my yoga. If we look at ahimsa and svadhyaya, like really studying yourself within the body of knowledge. And so he put on this David Wilcock presentation for me. It was like a 4 hour, and David Wilcock was the first person who, he's an educated man. He's on the New York Times bestselling list. He studies ancient civilization. He's brilliant. And so we knew him from academia, and we had been following his work on that level. And so when he said in a live, 4 hour thing that Donald Trump was on the right side of things, I literally, like, I had this
You're like,
yeah, like,
wait, I
what?
did the
Like,
same thing. Yeah.
it was one of those, like, this makes no sense. Like, but I also felt a wave of relief, like, I cannot explain. Like,
And did you feel a truth in you? Because this is what I did. The
yeah,
cerebral part of me was like, no.
yeah,
But the heart part of me was like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Like
And that's
it
where
like
relief is. Yeah,
melted into yes. But I was like, and then it was the wait, this is saying one thing and this is saying another. I need more. Like, and then
yes,
I just rah, like
yes,
went into it. So
yes.
go on.
And
I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt
that's
you,
the
but like
same.
there was definitely like a yes when I learned it too.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. And yeah, for me, it was just, thank goodness, like, relief, because the narrative that we had all bought into was such a bummer narrative. I mean, it was such a bummer narrative. Like, this guy's a supremacist and the world is going to shit. And all of the spiritual teachers too in yoga community, everybody kind of subscribed to that channel. And that was the narrative. And so it was actually a great relief. And it took me back to, like, the 16 campaign. And I was like, I remember actually liking him, but then getting convinced that, I should be excited about a female president, and, and my education and my programs and all of that. So yeah, we went down the rabbit hole and I couldn't get enough. And I started speaking on it really lightly. And then, I felt like my community was really with me, because I was like, look, if you hate President Trump, that's okay, but you're the one with the hate. And that vibration is unhealthy for you and it's toxic. And so, as your fearless leader, it's essential that we look at that hate. Why are you projecting that onto him? And so it started really lightly, and just using the tools of forgiveness and yoga and breath work to ground ourselves again so that we're not sucked into it. So gratefully I had those tools with me, but I went deep. I mean, many dark nights of the soul, sleepless nights. It's very disturbing on such a core level, because even the worst of things God uses for the best. And
Yes.
so, like, this is the worst thing. I mean, if you want me to talk, I mean, we're talking about the
Oh,
things that
you
happen
talk about anything. Yep.
to children on this planet that are just, they're just, there's no word for them. They're just pure evil. And that's how we try and describe them. But even that is being used by each and every one of us who's willing to look at it to heal our inner child, to
Right.
heal our aggression towards children, to heal our wounding emotionally from when we were kids. I just got full body chills.
Yeah,
You
me
know,
too.
I hadn't said that publicly yet, but that's really
Yeah.
what I believe is happening. And it's very sad because we're so asleep that we need something so deeply disturbing to wake us up. So there was some grieving also on that level of all of the ones who've died in, not necessarily in vain, but not only the children, the people that were trying to speak out about this, and even the medical industry. If you look at all of the cures and the healing and the natural supplements and all the things that we can do for our body, and all of those people just disappear, they get killed. Like, at some level, we have to accept the fact that there is an evil energy.
Yeah.
There's a plane.
Right.
And just to finish this thought, and I'll pass it back to you, that a lot of people in the yoga space, we think that it's all good, and I've done that for many, many years. And it is. Heaven hasn't skipped a beat. But you cannot know the joy and the bliss of heaven, of yoga, of unity consciousness, until you know the depths of separation. And that, I feel, is why we're calling this the Great Awakening. That's why this is happening. That's why I bow in gratitude for people like Charlie and Colleen, who are walking the walk. And as Charlie says often, like, somebody had to do it, because humanity is so far out of bounds. We're not treating our children right. It was just Christmas, and I found a little nativity at the little market here, and I put it up on our shelf there. And I was looking at it this morning as I was doing my thing, and it was, this bowing, this reverence to the children, to the innocence that I got chills again, we need to return to. And that's really why I think it's essential that people get out of their own way. And you can say that people like Nicole and I are crazy. You can hurt us all you want. We're protected by a force that's much greater than the fear that you're trying to project. And we get it. And it's loving. It's not meant to be, judgmental, but it is to say, this level of reverence is so much deeper than lip service or what it looks like from the outside. What happens when you go through this process is you change, and you can't go back. And it's a blessing. It really is. But as you pass through that portal, there's a lot of people, it's like Jacob's ladder, trying to pull you back down.
Yeah.
And to them, it's stop it. Take a deep breath.
Boundaries.
Pick up your
Boundaries.
cross and get on the program, because we've got a lot of work to do. And the yogis in the world, I've been saying this for years, we need to walk the walk. And that's why yoga off the mat was born, because I could already do handstands and do all the things, but like, it was about living in that energy field, that vibration. And that field is so pristine, that so much of your own stuff needs to be shed. And so it's use this time, look at the information, and let it take away your plug to that. If you don't do that, then you are giving it energy, because the only reason it can do that is because we have the power. Our minds are powerful, and us not, saying no and going to the stupid movies and eating the crap food and doing all of that is feeding the monster.
Giving it permission.
And
Yeah.
we are the ones with the power. So that's what this is all about. It's about taking back your power, and it's about standing up for what's right. And there is a right and there is a wrong. And the whole liberal yoga community is like, oh, well, we should just accept everybody. No, we should not accept pedophilia as normal. No, just no. I don't even need to explain myself. No.
Not to mention, I mean, the earth is this polarized, I mean, God, North and South Pole. It is a polarized environment that we choose to come into to learn these lessons and for God to experience who God is. You know what I mean? So like to say like, oh no, just accept it all, like it's all okay. That's not the reality of this world, I don't think. I mean, I would love for everything to be like blissed out, love and light, flowers growing on the ceiling. But and I think we can get to that. I do believe that there is a transition that the earth will undertake, or we will eventually get to that. I do, at least in my heart, that's what I have always felt.
I do too.
but I think that, yeah, you can't and I think that's one of the things that I noticed the most during the Black Lives Matters movement, as that came up, was everyone hopped on a bandwagon and everyone just started to repeat words without, it felt like to me, without really sinking into, don't you want to look at this deeper? Like you're just gonna jump to the yes, everything. I don't know how to explain myself with that one, Marie,
So let me
but
jump
it
in here.
just yeah, it
So
just felt like such false
totally.
positivity
Totally.
is what it
It's a
felt like.
false light template. It's a false light template. That's what that is. And everybody who's trying to stay within, I'm a yogi and I know things here, you have got to get out of your head. Thoughts are make believe. You've got to evolve. You've got to get above into your higher levels of consciousness. And Black Lives Matter is just another trick to keep you spinning around the wheel of samsara. If you're truly a yogi, it's a non-issue. Like it's
Non-issue.
not,
That's how I felt.
and everyone's like, "All lives matter" is racist. It's like, look, you're doing the same thing. And I had a real serious issue with the Black Lives Matter thing because I'm really far removed. But someone called me from my community from the past who's been like, we didn't necessarily have the healthiest relationship, and he reaches out and he says, "Hey, I want you to promote my event." For Black Lives Matter. And I said, well, okay, I hadn't really looked into it. I said, well, let me look into it. And do you want me to teach anything? Let me know. Cause let me know. And he's like, actually, no, we don't want you to teach. We only want, you're white and you're a woman. And I went, are you effing kidding me? Like, this is where we are. Like, how did we get here? And literally the next day I was in the hospital. Like, it was such a deep prejudice that I felt like I took it on for the salvation of the world. I was like, oh my God, that's so intense. And then my second story with Black Lives Matter is that I had gone to pay our dues for Yoga Alliance. And we invest for our entire affiliate community. And so it's like $1,000 a year, and it's significant, right? And it's Yoga Alliance. I've never been subscribed to it really, because I had an experience back in the day where I knew stuff was going on within my community where people were fudging their stuff. And I called them thinking, absolutely, they're going to get behind me. I had all this stuff because anyway, it was long story short. It was like, this guy's never taught a class and he just enrolled to be a teacher trainer certified in my branding. So I'm just letting you know I didn't sign that certificate. And they were like, oh, sorry, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And so for me, I knew back then, it was like 2000, I don't know, 10 or something, that this was craziness. And then I go to pay my dues, and on the top of it, it's like, we fully support Black Lives Matter. And I felt this plug in my stomach again, just that false light,
False light.
template. And so I didn't pay my dues. And we were a month overdue. And I was like, I have to tell my community, we've got to have a conversation about this. And I had gotten the reminder that it's not too late. And within 2-3 days, it all happened within 3 days, the community found out that I hadn't paid. They accused me of not following through with my contracts, which half of them were default on their payments anyway because of COVID, because we said, just forget it, don't worry about it, we'll sort it out, later. So then they came after me and said I needed, because I didn't support Black Lives Matter, and I'm allowed to have my political views, but because I didn't pay the money to the organization. And if you know anything, go just a smidge deeper. It's horrendous what you're going to find out about all of these good-hearted people. It's not that it's just they don't know, and they're so violent. They will not learn. They hold on, and this is egoic consciousness. It grips, and you have to be right, and you don't care about happiness. You just want to be right. And that's how my whole business pretty much fell apart, because I said I would pay it, but I wasn't going to pay for a year. And I really wanted to look at this, because if you're saying to me, I can't have a political opinion, but everybody cares about the standardization of yoga and not about living the yoga. And that's a real issue for me. And so
Real issue.
basically I'm changing everything. I'm like, you know what? I don't care about certifications anymore. You certify yourself. If you
Oh,
studied this curriculum and it resonates in your heart and you have goodness and joy in there, you absolutely should be teaching. It's not about a piece of paper. And if you sat there for 200 hours, and so many people are doing that, but they're not going deeper. And that's yoga off the mat. That's why we did all of that. But at the same time, people get to a certain level, Nicole, and they're just like, they realize how transformational it's going to be. And how you're not going to be the same person. You're going to be willing to let go of relationships that you can't even believe you're letting go of. Like, you're going to let go of mental forms and ideas and structures and memories, and everything's going to fall apart. And it
does.
is. but it's for the lightness, it's for the goodness of all. And that's what yogis forget. Yogis just are so self-centered right now, and I can say that because I was one of them. So worried about myself, my reputation, what I was going to look like, what people were going to think about me. And at the end of the day, I was like, that's not yoga.
No.
And if someone wants to say, well, where's your da 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 da, it's like, dude, it's in the actions. It's in the actions.
It's in my
And
heart, it's in my communication, it's in how I live.
yeah,
It's in my life is what it's in. So it's interesting that you said that because I gave up doing the Yoga Alliance thing a long time ago.
yeah,
Like a long time ago, I was like,
I would have, yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that somebody needs to like certify my stuff at all. Who are you to certify what I know and who I am and what I teach? If you're coming to watch me teach, maybe that's different. If we're gonna have a conversation about it, maybe certify me on that, but certainly not on random things that I've picked and chosen to fit into your menu of what needs to happen. So anyway, so you and I mean, we definitely have the same opinions on that. What I wanted to say about Black Lives Matter is what I saw happening that broke my heart. Like it actually made me so sorrowful inside. And I know that everything is me, everything that's out there is in here. So I had to reconcile the sorrow inside of myself was that so often we go at something pure-heartedly and innocently and open-heartedly, and it is truly not that people are subscribing to something because they are a bad person or because they are dumb. It's honestly, I saw so many people following that movement because they have a genuine desire to either be seen as good
Mhm,
or to feel themselves as good.
mhm.
And when I realized that, it made me so sad on the inside because it connected all the parts of me where I want to feel like a good person. And like my little girl inside is trying to prove her worth. And so it was like this huge lesson that just spiraled back inside of me. But you said something in the very beginning of that conversation about all lives matter. And that was my thing. Every time I would see it, I would reword it in my head. Every time I saw those words, Black Lives Matter, I would say all lives matter, all lives matter, all because I wanted to like balance it out for the universe. I was like, if you're gonna say it that way, I'm gonna say it this way because it is one more form of racism. If you are gonna choose any little section and say this one matters, then by default, by our commonality of language and how we use language and concepts and we communicate even psychically, by saying that one thing matters, it means that the others don't. It's like pushing up one flower from the ground and letting the others just stay
Separation.
seeds. It's separation, exactly. And I was like, I am not about separation. I am about unity. And I've lived my life in that way where I haven't, that doesn't apply to me. The Black Lives Matters thing it didn't feel like it was applicable to my life. You know what I mean? Like I've never been that person, so it didn't matter to me. And I don't mean their lives didn't matter, like people of color's lives didn't matter. It was just the concept of the racism and the hatred and the division and the separation didn't feel alive inside of me beyond what I was experiencing with my own self,
Wow.
if that makes sense. It was
Yeah.
like it was a me thing that was being reflected out there. And I was like, gosh, how do we take this? And like you're saying, off the mat, how do you like communicate that to people? But I felt like it was such a volatile environment that it wasn't even a place where you could communicate it. Maybe now we could at this point because it's simmered down, but so much aggression, so much anger, so much of that like and victimization. Like it's hard to get into people's ears when they're in that like victim aggressor and even savior paradigm. Like that victim aggressor savior thing is so powerfully all interconnected that to put truth in there is, I don't know that it was a ripe time for that. So I had a difficult time, but also a huge learning opportunity with it.
I like how you're saying, Nicole, that you were feeling the motion, like the emotions, like you felt that, because this is all a projection, and this is all showing us where we need to heal.
Yeah.
And so if you go at it from that place, like you are gonna blast through, and you're blasting through your karmas. You're really advancing. You're accelerating your ascension process. That's a real gift. So you bless the people, and you're right. It was a very complicated time. That's really, I mean, I stopped talking to my family around that time. I mean, it was,
Mm.
I'm still in touch with them very superficially because we really want to, but there were rifts there. It was like they couldn't believe this. And that's why people like you and me have to keep going, because we're the lighthouses. Like they know it, but they can't understand it. And that's what's frustrating for people, is like, what do you mean you don't care about Black lives? You go, dude, of course I do. Like, you don't need to defend that. Like, that's not even a thing. But this situation is not that.
It's
And
not,
you
it's
saying
false. It is
it's false.
false. Yeah, like you
And
said,
me
a
saying
false
that,
light.
it's not only it's false, it's promoting evil in the world. It's a
And separation. I
separation.
mean, that's what
And
it was.
it just really shows how far gone we are. I mean, that's the hard part too, is that, like, and what attracted me to this community, actually, like, to step out of my own and step into this to a certain level, was that these guys, like, you guys were all walking the walk. Like, when I first, like, started, like, watching this stuff, I was like, I cannot believe they said that out loud. Like,
Mm.
oh my God, like, what courage does that take? And now people are calling me going, I can't believe you said that out loud. I go, I know. That's the power of Mula Bandha. That's yoga. You get
Yeah.
infused with God so that you speak
Mm.
truth, and you're not afraid, because you can't die, and they can take what they want, but at the end of the day, you're always going to be protected, because you're on the right side of things.
Yeah.
And I that's really helped me and supported me, is just constantly affirming that. And even when the people go away, and those deep relationships that really tug and hurt, looking at the facts, how was I living my day to day? What kind of relationships am I in? Where do I put my physical body in space and time? And asking myself to evaluate myself based on on those frequencies, and knowing, not as a judgment, but what other people were dealing with, and why perhaps they might be responding in that way, with that spiritual ego, with the fear dressed up with, my conscious yogic language, like that.
Mm.
Like, okay, I feel you. I see that you're trying to give this to me. It's not mine. It's not. I love you. And I'm going to just keep going and trusting myself. And that's been such massive healing for me. I mean,
Oh,
I cannot even, I'm
I
still processing. It's hard to communicate it. Yeah.
I know. When I say, like, if there was one golden nugget that I've gotten out of this whole year, it is just know yourself so deeply. And this is all so new to me. I mean, I'm 44, almost 45, so I spent 43 years living one way, and then this year, I shouldn't say that. The past, like, 3, 4 years have been very transformational, but this year was like, it was like doing my thesis, like, here's my graduate degree, like writing my thesis. But it has been that only I know me. Like, only I know my truth. Only I know what feels like love in my heart and what feels right and true. And the only thing I know how to do is follow that now. Like, and it's not always going to be right. Or sometimes it might be right for a season. Like, what I'm feeling is truth inside of myself, and what I'm feeling is righteousness or whatever might just be what I know at that time.
Yes.
And then I have to have enough grace to move forward and accept the new learning, which will eventually make me look back on that other thing and be like, well, kind of had it. Or I had no idea what I was talking about back then, and have compassion for what I knew at the time. So it's like this ever evolving, moving forward, like slow rolling ball of growth that, like you said, you just have to be with yourself. And it goes back to that be here now, like the Ram Dass thing. Like, literally in this moment, as who we are is all that we can love and accept, because we are divinely ourselves, and our most, what is the word, our most, like, incarnate self in this moment. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
we can't anticipate what we're going to be. I could never, if you asked me last December 29th, how do you feel about Donald Trump? I was like, well, he's a narcissist.
Right. You had the same rap everybody
He's
else did.
a narcissist. And then it was like, I mean, 2 months later, I got hit over the face, like in the head, with this information. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I felt that way. But I didn't know. Like, you only know what you know when you know it, and that's the
Perfect.
process of evolving in life and being compassionate with ourselves. And then that's where I think it goes back to, like, as within, so without. If you have to have compassion for yourself for what you did or didn't know at the time, then that's where the compassion comes in for those who haven't woken up to this point yet, who haven't quite understood where we're at, for the people who are maybe kind of blindly following the masses right now. Because I think that that's a lot of what's happening, is people are finding comfort in
Yes.
mass,
Yes.
comfort in mass. Like, this must be the truth because this is what everyone is believing. I should get a vaccination because everyone says this is like the next fabulous thing in the world. So it's like there's this compassion that I have to have for the people around me, but I have to remind myself it's a practice because I will go into judgment. Like I'm still super imperfect in that way. But I do have to remind myself that like everyone has to be where they're at for their own personal growth at this time. Like I was having a conversation with my guy this morning, and he was like, "I just want to wake people up. I just want to like red pill them." And I was like, "Do you notice that every time you try to do it, it comes back and it feels like pain inside of you? It hurts. It doesn't feel good when we're trying to like alter that other person because that person needs to do their thing." I remember, this is kind of a tangent, but I was driving home from the Outer Banks, which is a really long drive. It's like a 9-hour drive. I was driving home by myself last summer, and I was driving along this huge long bridge with water on either side of me, and this vision appeared in front of me, and it was this vision of a whole field of flowers, but instead of it being a flower, it was a little light bulb, like good old fashioned, like little, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like a little light bulb. So all the flowers were light bulbs, and
Wow.
God showed me in that moment that like one person needs to turn theirs on, and then very often the other person is quite far away but they turn theirs on. And so there's all these little lights, and now you should use like the light worker analogy, but there's all these little lights planted across the earth, and our only job is to shine as brightly as we can. Like the more we can radiate our own light, the more that might encourage the one next to us to also begin to know its light, like to know its capacity to turn on and begin to beam. But beyond that, like we can't, like if you were a flower and you were planted in the ground, you can't like nudge the flower next to you and be like, dude, shine. Like you can't. There's no capacity for that. So like your only job then is to open up and be like, I'm going to shine the brightest I can shine. I'm going to be the most fully embodied God that I can be with whatever wisdom I have at the time, like wherever I'm at in my path. And not everyone's shining at the same time, the same rate, the same pace, but there's beauty in that too, because we could all be lit up and then extinguished right away. Like maybe it's special that we're all kind of shining at different times and there's like this light show going on when you zoom way out and look at it from above. So it was just like this vision that was like blasted into my mind. So I will always remember crossing that bridge with that vision.
Wow.
But we were having this conversation and I was like, it never feels good when you're trying to like force somebody else. Like nobody wants to have anything forced upon them. And I don't know about you, but like the way that I came to understand all of this content, the stuff that you and I are kind of vibing on right now, definitely through my yoga life, my 20 years of doing that, but also just having friends who were willing to say, "Hey, do you know the story of like what do you know that Donald Trump is freeing the children right now?" Like I was like, "What children? What are you talking about?" But nobody shoved it down my throat. They questioned me and they said, "What do you know about this?" And it's like it goes back to being a teacher, I think, and a friend, like a teacher and a friend. I think we have to have those intimate connections with people first before they're willing to trust us enough to have that question asked. And that's what I said to you on our Zoom the other day. I was like, I am so grateful for the community that you are creating. On Zoom the other day, there was like 16 or 20 of us. But having a community where we all feel safe enough, loved enough, and we're feeling like literally feeling that vibration of being cared for and welcomed, that's where we then feel safe enough to soften into ourselves and be like, okay, now I can maybe take in more. Because when we're stiff and like rigid and like we feel like someone's trying to shove it at us, like we're repelling it. We're like in defense mode. Like we all have to find this place where we can get squishy enough and soft enough, kind of like on the mat, where you can relax and calm down and then be able to be like gently questioned into your beliefs and like have a really gentle ebb and flow of conversation. I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying all that, but
Oh, because it's perfect. And it's that's why you're saying it. It's God's words through you. And I'm just soaking them up as the light is like coming over you.
it's
I don't
like beaming on him. I'm like, ah,
But at one point you were talking about the light bulbs and your whole hand was lit up. You've got to go back and watch. It was just
ah,
magic. So
that's cool. That's
that
so
was
cool.
really cool. Wow,
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you for sharing all of that. I just felt such a gnosis and thank you so much. Wow, so many beautiful things there to pull from. I think what you're this last piece that you're sharing, just to be relaxed and communicate, that's the word communicate is to commune, is to be together. And we don't know how to do that anymore, where we really do. We're afraid. We have defenses. We're nervous wrecks and we don't even
Oh
know
my
it.
gosh. Oh
And
gosh.
even the yogis, and from, because I know this because I am one of these too. I
Me
have to
too. Me too. Me too.
really keep my energy in check. And I thought I knew. It's like what you said earlier. I thought I knew all this stuff, and then wow, I just knew layers of it. And that's what's beautiful
Yeah.
about this time, is that it is an acceleration. And so yeah, the people in the truth community that have a way of articulating like symbology, numerology, that's what kind of pulled me, and
Mm,
decoding music, to be like, oh wow, there's all these things I don't even know about, but look at how it all relates, and look at how everybody here is talking about meditation and spiritual growth. And so maybe it's
yeah.
not just the yoga space, but it's the world now, it's the earth. It's like you're sharing, all these light bulbs are going out in different
Mhm.
communities with different professions and different countries and cultures, and everything is just getting lit up. And there are people, and that's what's fun about community too, coming together and being like, oh my God, thank God, because it's now more acceptable for us to find each other and to speak out, even though we've taken some major hits. um, yeah, we want to share, but at the same time, it's very difficult to be up against that. And so yeah, we need to get plugged into our people, because it's a lot of energy to carry. And so what you're speaking to, that's the work I feel like you and I are going to be really important with. Like I don't know when or how, but I really see that it's like, how can we get people to relax? And that's what I thought we were doing. And maybe it was just practice for now, but
Mm,
it's, I think on the other side of that, the people, I red pilled my people too fast. They
yeah.
they did not have any idea this was coming. And that wasn't on my fault necessarily. Like I was talking about it. Not everybody's going to tune into all your videos and read all your posts and do everything like that. But that, they were so in survival that for them it was a total betrayal. Like, how could you go here? Like, I am just, I got 3 kids at home by myself. We're freaking out right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it together. And now you want to talk about trafficking? Like, I don't have time for that. It's like, whoa, that's how you get out of your insanity, though. That's how
Yeah.
you get out of your hell, is by serving bigger and better, and just stepping out. Like, I'm giving everything away in my business. If you knew what was in my bank account right now, people would be like, what, are you crazy? And I'm like, I just know it's going to be fine. Like,
Yeah.
there are times when I freak out, but 98% of the time, this is the work of yoga. It's in unity.
Exactly. Oh, and the community, like, and that's why I have like Elevation Nation right now. It's a podcast and a YouTube channel, and there's a Facebook group. But like, I really want to grow this into this community, like a nation, literally Elevation Nation, a nation of people who are united in this way and who can relax enough to have conversations that are mind stretching, that are not like abusive, that they are like gently opening, like that little flower, and like having these conversations that help people to feel. Because this is what I this is one of my favorite things in life. One of my favorite things in life is when I do not expect to hear something come out of somebody's mouth, and then they say it and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so at home with them now. Like, I just connected to them. I just felt my yoga with them. I felt united with my heart. And that's how I felt with you. As soon as you started talking on Charlie Freak, I was like, oh, she's saying my words. Like,
Yeah.
and that has happened with various authors in the past and speakers. Like, I remember the first time I heard Brene Brown do her TED talk, I was like, oh, the vulnerability stuff, like that's my language. I was so pumped. That was a long time ago, but I was so connected to her on that thing. It's just different people, like different people across my life. They're like all these little dots that are connected, like little constellations, who have kind of led me into this. But it's always that thing where when somebody says the most vulnerable thing and you connect on it. Like I remember going to a friend's AA meeting. She was celebrating like 25 years of sobriety. And I remember walking into that room and just feeling so at home because it felt like it was other people who were being so damn honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want honest. I want to know who you are in your heart and soul. And I want to know the crap stuff that you feel bad about yourself because I want to change that for you. I want to help you to know your most godly divine self. Like that's what I think I'm here to do, is help people to realize how divine they are. Like that's because that's been my path of like unwinding me feeling like I was the complete opposite of divine and learning my absolute divinity and how, like, God only creates God. That's
Beautiful.
what we are. We are its essence, you know. And so but the idea of community, I think too, what I was going to say is and you're really good at this, and you were talking on our Zoom call about just welcoming people in, like the way that you're letting go of costs and stuff like that, like letting people just come in. It's like a mom or like a shepherd bringing in the sheep and being like, let's just sit together and let's just freaking be human and let's feel our way through this. We don't know what it is, but we're going to feel with our beautiful hearts that are so smart. We're going to find our way through all of this together in community. Like that's how we're going to get through it, is by having the hard conversations, supporting each other when we're falling apart, like just going back to stuff that I think we have come so far from.
Yeah.
I think that like that age of Pisces was the exact opposite. It was everybody separating out and like competing and all that stuff. And now I think this is like the ripest time that we've ever had, or that we've had in thousands of years at least, to come together and create something totally new on the earth. And that's where I find so much hope and excitement, is like, yes, things feel like they are a hot mess and they are falling apart. But I know personally within my own life and my own journey, I had to let my life, like my marriage, fall apart, my friendships, my everything fall apart for something brand new to grow. And I have this absolute knowing inside my soul that God only lets that happen when something better is coming.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen the other way.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that means that right now, if that's my truth at least. So my truth, as I watch everything kind of fall apart, there's definitely a fear part of me where I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be communist run, like I get freaked out by that. But I'm like, no, God wouldn't let that happen, especially right now. Like that's not happening right now. I can see a different storyline, and that's the one I'm hopping on. That's the train that I'm going to get on, is the train that's going in that direction. So
Yeah.
anybody that wants to come ride the train, let's
Yeah. Yeah.
let's have a party. But I
Yeah.
wanted to say one more thing.
No
um,
problem.
you talked the other day about love is all that matters, right?
Only
I
love
remember
is
you saying that. Only love is real.
only love is
Only
real.
love is real. Only love is real. And I sat with that for a little while because I was like, I so badly want to believe that. Like, I so badly in my heart want to believe that only love is real. But what I could only get myself to today, I remember I said to you, like, I feel like we're like this growing process. Like, in this hot moment of my life, what I can get to is love is the most pure and powerful, because it still feels like the other stuff is real. So I
Yeah.
wondered if you could talk on that for a minute. Like, is there is there like a jewel that you've come across that I haven't come across yet, where like you can fully believe in that concept of only love is real?
That's so great. Thank you for the question. The
I'm sorry
jewel.
to put you on the spot too.
No, I love it. Are you kidding? This is what we
Here's this
do.
huge philosophical question.
No, let's go for it. It's perfect. Only love is real. The jewel came from the Course in Miracles for me, because the Course in Miracles really supported me in detaching myself from the fears and from the illusions of the world. And I think that that's what you're saying, is like, okay, I get that love is the most powerful. I can get behind
Mm,
that. Love always wins. I get behind that. But what about all of this? Because like I felt the pang in my chest. I saw the child that whatever it is, that still feels real. So a lot of people aren't so crazy about that statement, which I totally get. And I was super offended at first, because I'm like, well, that's total crap, because it's not, and what about this? And we all have our lists of all of the other things that are very real for us. But what the Course is inviting us to say, to look at, is that it's not real, in that it's not eternity. It's playing itself out so that you can learn that your space in love is there. Like your truth, your heaven, that's always there. That's all that's real. That's reality with a capital R. We are ideas in the mind of God. Our problem, and the only difference that we have between us and God, is that we don't know that.
mm.
We think we created ourselves, and we didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
we need
yeah.
to remember that we are the created. So we have the power of God through us, which miscreates. So the world of illusions is a miscreation. And so because it's miscreated, what God created is eternal and never changes and can't be uncreated. But what we've created absolutely can be uncreated, because it is a miscreation. The only way to uncreate it is to co-create, to collaborate with God. Because only God knows how we can get out of this mess that we made because we ate from the tree. We wanted
Mm.
to know what it would be like to be separate from God. And the moment that happened, the course teaches us that the moment that we thought that, the correction was placed in our awareness. That correction is called the internal teacher, the inner guide, the Holy
Mm.
Spirit, whatever you call it.
Right.
That is what is real about you.
Mm.
That's the truth of who you are. And so that has the knowledge, that knows how to use everything that happens in your reality as an assignment for you to move out of little r, little
Mhm.
reality, your little reality that you created, that's generally going to be a bit of a mess because you created it from a lower frequency that's
Mhm.
not real. So it miscreated, it's a false template, it's inverted,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
the only way to get out of that is to be willing to ask for higher guidance. Please show me. Please show me how to look at this. This is bringing me pain. This is bringing me discomfort. This feels real. I feel like vomiting, or whatever it
Mhm.
is that's upsetting. We need to learn in those moments to take it to our holy selves, our Holy Spirit, our higher self, our internal wisdom. You could call it Christ consciousness. I like Christ
Mm.
consciousness. I love Christ
Yes.
as an example. And he says in the course that, I'm like an elder brother. I can hold your hand. I've done this, but you have to ask for support.
Mm.
And not like that, but you have to ask for it.
Mhm.
Because you have free will, and the universe knows you as a perfect creation. So it's not going to correct you.
Mm.
It only knows you in your perfection because that's all that's real about you. That's all that's sustainable. Now, someone asked me something recently about, well, what about all the evil in the world from a course perspective? Like, well, then what are we going to say about A, B, and C? Like, if only love is real, then yeah, what about all of this? And what we're saying is that it's as far removed from God as possible. It is real in our reality, but it is unreal in the realm of God, which where we are at home. So did God create the evil? I don't think so. That's not
Mm.
my understanding of it.
Mm.
It's that God in his infinite wisdom allows potentiality and choice and wants to know itself as its purest self,
Mhm.
which all of us are moving through, this like boomerangs to the depths of hell and walking our way back up to 12 dimensions. I mean, this is what this is. We're learning how to ascend and know that only the love in anything is real, because only that is eternal.
It reminds me of when people cross over, like when they have like their near death experiences and they get into that space where it is only love. Like they don't remember any,
Yeah.
there is no connection to any, like anything. You're just love.
Yeah.
You're
And
just
that's what
love.
we're learning. That was perfect, Nicole. That's what we're learning how to do here. And it's
Mhm.
it's really challenging because we're learning through contrast. That's 4D.
Mhm.
But once you
Yeah.
get beyond contrast, it is only love. And so
Yeah.
you can see, and you're not as emotionally pulled into it. And that's the healing work. Because in the contrast, we're constantly getting plugged. And so it takes a lot of work to, unplug the cords and, clear your energy and do all of that stuff so that you can see it coming. And if you don't see it coming, then it's a lesson.
Right.
It
That
doesn't mean.
also reminds me of Ho'oponopono. Like I did, yeah, I did like a Ho'oponopono certification this summer, and it was all about how if it is not love, if it is not the divine, then it is just data.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my God, that word data, I
beautiful.
loved because it neutralizes everything. It
Yeah.
takes away the bad and good, and it just calls it data. If it's not God, it's data. So it's kind of the same thing. If it's not love, it's data. It's just like chatter, or whatever. And so the whole thing is purifying and going back to love, 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 letting go of anything that's just data. But what I struggled with that class a little bit was I didn't want to do the head in the sand thing. Like I didn't want to just be like, oh well, that awful thing is going on, but it's data. Like I didn't want to be naive and ignore the concepts that that I was learning. Because at the same time that I was going through that course was a lot of when I was learning the stuff that you and I are connecting based on. So it
Yeah.
was like this really interesting dynamic of like you are being you were being shown really heavy stuff about
Yeah.
humanity, and you're also doing this Ho'oponopono class. So I was like, "Ah."
Yes.
It was crazy timing, like crazy, crazy timing. But I was very grateful for that tool in my life at the time because I think it did get me through it. It was like a crutch to get
Absolutely.
me through what I was learning, for
Yeah.
sure. But I think the main thing that has got me through what I'm learning is community. It still keeps going back to community, community, community. And like when I start to feel those ways, if I can turn on Charlie's show or I can connect with somebody like our conversation right now, it I don't know what it does. It just feels so validating. It just feels so like connected in love that like I don't know at this moment if there's anything more solid that I could hang on to in this moment than this conversation. Like it
Wow.
feels so like
Beautiful.
anchored. So
Yeah.
anchored. I love it. I'm so grateful for the time that you've given me. I know that we have gone long because I think you and I are the kind of people that could probably talk for like, I don't know, 8 hours and not get
Yeah.
tired of it. Did you have anything else that you really wanted to like anything else that's coming through that you really wanted to put out there right now?
Coming through. Yeah, just stay the course.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, just we're just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other with this stuff. And yes, connecting and say yes to the people, say yes to the energy that resonates and that's serving you, and just keep saying yes to that. I think that's what I'm really learning. So thank you for this invitation for me to say yes
Um,
to, because that's
yeah.
what I want to do. I just want to be together. I just want to
Yeah.
be
Me
fully
too.
self-expressed and do this healing work and have deeper conversations. So it's wonderful to have one, like
Yeah,
a
I'm
real
so
conversation.
grateful. Yeah, anytime you want a real conversation, that's like my thing. I love it. I'm so grateful again that you came on and talked to me today and that we've connected in this super magical way. I was saying before we began recording that my meeting you has felt so inverted in that way, where it was like my soul connected to your soul, like heart to heart first before I knew anything about you. I was like, boom, like just kind of like communed together, like we kind of united. And then I kind of learned you in reverse a little bit. So it's really cool. It's cool when that
Thank you.
magic happens. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's next level. I mean, that's what it's going to be now. It's like let's
Yeah.
connect soul level, and then the rest is again the part of the illusion. It's what's
Yeah,
real.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, do you care what I do for a living? Do I care what you do for a living? Not really. I care who you are, what's going on in your heart. Like, tell me what's in your heart, you know? Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And so much love to you. Like, seriously,
Oh,
so much love to you and yours.
so much love to you. Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
time. I really enjoyed it. We'll do
Thank
it
you. I
again soon on
appreciate you
my
coming
channel.
on. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Be well.
Bye for now.
Bye.